On the show tonight, more focus group action from Iowa. But first, let's go to our man Peter Cook in our Washington bureau with all the latest political news. Peter?
Mark, John, the State Department today released the first batch of Hillary Clinton's personal emails when she was Secretary of State, but using a private email server. They're all related to the 2012 terrorist attack in Benghazi, Libya, that killed U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. Clinton said she never used the server for classified material, but the FBI classified one email in the batch today. And the emails also reveal she struggled with how to disclose the deaths, received condolences from then Defense Secretary Bob Gates, and got a lot of advice from longtime friend and former Clinton White House advisor Sidney Blumenthal, even though Blumenthal had no official government role. Campaigning in New Hampshire, Clinton commented on the emails.
I want them to release all of them as soon as possible, and they are in the process of doing that. I understand there is a certain protocol that has to be followed. They're following that. These that are being released today have been in the committee jurisdiction. They were given to the committee some months ago, and now finally those are getting released. So it's beginning. I just would like to see it expedited so we get more of them out more quickly.
Clinton supporters say the emails bolster her previous accounts of what happened regarding Benghazi. But Congressman Trey Gowdy, the Republican chairman of the special committee investigating the tragedy, says they leave unresolved questions about her response to warnings. That's why he wants to depose Blumenthal on June 3rd and eventually hear from Hillary Clinton herself. Mark, John?
Thanks, Peter. All right, back to our focus groups. John and I were in Des Moines, Iowa earlier in the week. Did focus groups, one with the Republican group, one with the Democratic group, spent a lot of time with them. Wanted to bring you some more of the material from there that we haven't gotten to show you yet. First, the Democrats. We talked to them about Hillary Clinton quite a bit, but we also talked to them about some of the other Democrats who are talked about as presidential candidates. Bernie Sanders, senator from Vermont, who's in the race, and also Elizabeth Warren, the Massachusetts senator, who so far has refused entreaties to run. We also talked to them about the Clintons and their political style. The Clintons tend to be more secretive than even normal politicians. Does anybody agree with that?
Yeah, no.
You agree with that. Anybody else besides Bill agree with that? Charlie agrees. The 3 of you agree that they're more secretive. None of the rest of you think that?
I think they're more strategic, maybe. Secretive is, what's secretive, you know, and so they just...
Another thing deriving from both the foundation controversy and the email controversy, some people say the Clintons, again, more than even most politicians, feel they can play by their own rules. Does anybody feel that way?
I think all politicians
do.
Kendra, go ahead.
I think they just play the game well. They think ahead before something happens, just like with the when she's using the, what did you say, it was a non-server? Or
her own personal server.
Her personal server. I mean, I think she's thinking ahead. She knows what's coming next. She's been there. She's seen it. She knows.
So as people tend to agree with that point of view as opposed to something inappropriate about playing by their own rules?
It's the nature of politicians.
They all do.
So the Republicans have a big field. They might have 15 candidates or so. They're going to have, as some of you referenced, a pretty contested nomination fight.
I count 21.
21. All right, that's a lot. Is anybody running for the Republican nomination who you find appealing?
No.
No. Anybody?
Marco Rubio does have some good views.
What do you find appealing about him?
A lot of his social programs, I think, would be better. He's more left than most Republicans. So.
Okay. Does anybody have anything positive to say about Jeb Bush?
Is that a joke?
Why do you say that?
We don't need any more Bushes in the White House.
Some of you have referenced she doesn't seem to have very stiff competition. Are any of you who want a Democrat elected, want Hillary Clinton elected?
She has competition. She's just crushing them right now. I mean,
are any of you worried that if she doesn't have a vigorous challenge, it could hurt her chances of winning? Is anybody worried about that?
I'd like to see an Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden in there for her to run against and maybe get a little more of a race that way.
Yeah. Does anyone else share Bill's wish on that she get a tougher contest to kind of get ready for a general election?
I think Bernie Sanders is going to surprise people. He's going to have a bigger voice than he's given credit for. And
tell me why you think that, John.
I personally like his policies. I like he does answer the questions.
Would you like his presence in the race to cause her to take more progressive positions?
Oh yeah.
You think it'll have that effect if he does well?
Yeah, I think it will. I think it has already.
And I think she's going to have to lean more to the left now.
If he did have a good chance, would any of you feel he'd be someone more to your liking than Hillary Clinton?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
You both would like him more if he could be the nominee.
Oh, yeah. Right now, whether we like it or not, you know, we have a Citizens United America, and you need to raise a lot of money. And he's just not, there's just so many characteristics where he just doesn't stand a chance.
Christina, do you think anything about Bernie Sanders or not on your radar?
I don't know much about him, no.
Okay. Martin O'Malley, who knows who that is?
Governor of Maryland?
Governor of Maryland, former governor of Maryland. Al, what do you think about Martin O'Malley?
I don't know a whole lot about him. The little I've seen of him, he does sound like a good guy, but I just haven't really read too much of his stances lately, so I really couldn't say.
Charlie, what do you think of him?
You know, I know he's a bit to the left of Hillary on a few issues, and I think I personally land somewhere in between Bernie Sanders and Hillary. And so, you know, it probably aligns a little better with me than either of the other two.
Anyone have thoughts about Jim Webb? Anybody know who he is?
I've seen him in interviews and stuff. I do like he's direct. I don't know. I haven't seen him too much recently in the news, but just in the past, and anytime I've come across him in the news or whatever, I've always liked what he had to say.
Raise your hand if you think if Elizabeth Warren got in the race and did well, she could win the caucuses. Raise your hand if you think she could beat Hillary in the caucuses.
I don't think she could beat Hillary.
No one would do it.
I don't know if anyone could beat Hillary.
Okay. Is there anybody you think could beat Hillary, or is she for the nomination, or she's unbeatable?
At this point, yes.
Yeah. Charlie, anybody you think could beat her?
No, I don't. Not that I've heard of.
Always interesting to hear what voters think. We did those focus groups in Des Moines with our colleagues at Purple Strategies, our partners. Yeah. What'd you think of what they had to say about the Clintons' willingness to engage in hardball politics?
Amazing. I mean, it's not, people talk about how the Clintons get away with a lot of stuff because it's baked into the cake, right? That we've heard all the stories and now it's all kind of assumed that that's how they are. These people don't only assume it, they admire it. They're looking at the Clintons saying, this is how politics is. It's hardball. These guys play it well. They admire their ability to cut throats.
And they know that they can win elections, and that's what they want.
Totally. The other interesting thing, we spent a fair amount of time talking about Bernie Sanders, who's like the new big player, or at least the new player on the presidential scene on the Democratic side. What do you think about their reaction to Sanders?
They knew a lot about him. They liked him. They liked the fact that he is playing a role in bringing Hillary Clinton further to the left. And they seem to have some affection for him and respect for him. And I think they didn't say this totally explicitly, but it seemed like they'd like someone more like Bernie Sanders, but they know he can't win.
Yeah, they weren't totally in love with his grooming, but they like the directness, they like the honesty, they like the authenticity, which is things that we know all voters kind of crave. And Bernie has those things in spades.
All right, so then I asked them about Elizabeth Warren, and they made it clear they don't think Elizabeth Warren can beat Hillary Clinton. A lot of people, I think, in Brooklyn at Hillary Clinton's headquarters would say, we hope Elizabeth Warren doesn't get in. These people didn't say if she said she got in, she couldn't beat Hillary.
Well, they must be students of the polling. I mean, for one thing, they must, because you look at the polls, and it's true, but Elizabeth Warren wouldn't have much of a chance to win. But, it's been true both in our New Hampshire focus groups and these Iowa focus groups. The notion that there's some yearning in the Democratic Party for Elizabeth Warren to get in, it really is an AstroTurf thing. I mean, there's some people who make a lot of noise on the left who make it seem like she's got way more support in the country than she really does, at least if you go by these groups.
My takeaway from the full session, from the earlier parts we showed in tonight's, is they're sophisticated, they're pro-Clinton, and they're not idealistic. They don't think Hillary Clinton can necessarily change Washington, but they know she's their best hope to win the White House, or at least they think so.
All they care about is winning and keeping a Republican from being in the Oval Office, and that they think she's the best route to getting there.
They're pro-Clinton with a lot of asterisks, but make no mistake, they're pro-Clinton.
Pro-Clinton, absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back with some more exciting focus group action, this time with the Republicans, right after this.
Welcome back to our special Focus on the Focus Groups show. Now we're going to show you some more bonus footage from our Iowa focus group, the one that we conducted earlier this week with Purple Strategies. This is what the Republican voters had to tell us.
I'll give you a choice, and you could say a little bit of both, but someone who has experience, someone who knows how government works and is experienced in that way, or someone who can bring change, like someone who come to Washington and change the system, or are you looking for a mixture of those two things?
I definitely think there needs to be a mixture. I think you have to have both to run this country. Again, I think you need somebody that has leadership and governance qualities, but they also have to be able to work with people and be diplomatic and be able to cross the aisle and deal with both Republicans and Democrats as opposed to being so divisive. And I think that comes again with leadership and the ability to govern and to run business.
I think most politicians, when they're elected, their first thing they want to do is they're trying to get reelected. That's their number one goal, and that shouldn't be their number one goal. But I think because of all the term limits, I don't think our country was set up. It was used to set up for just a lay politician. Now it's set up. Everybody's a professional politician. There's guys coming in with no money, and after 3 years, they're leaving as millionaires. So.
For me, I want to see somebody who is charismatic, who can instill hope and get people behind him. That's what matters to me.
Bill, is it important to you to have someone who's held elective office before?
Not really. They need to have a record. This guy we have now never really did anything but be a neighborhood organizer. We need somebody that was successful at something.
Okay, that's fair enough. Christina, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. You got to have something, entrepreneur or something. I'll throw a name out. Donald Trump he is so successful in business. That's a core that he does really well. I'm not saying he's the next president, but he's a candidate for a reason. He is a core. He's great at money, making money. Can he turn America's economy around? Sure. That's something better than Obama has done.
If you put aside Mr. Trump, most of the Republicans who are running on the we're not sure he's running yet or not, but if you put Mr. Trump aside, you've got basically a bunch of Republicans who are they've either been a governor or are a governor, or they've been a senator or are a senator, right? So when you think about those qualifications, is there one of those that you think is more attractive or less attractive? The idea of the executive experience in the governorship, or the legislative experience in the Senate, or could it be from either one? What do you think about that, Michelle?
Either one, just as long as I think they still need to understand how government works and know at least a little bit of the ins and outs of it to be able to run the government. If you don't completely understand how the government works, how are you supposed to be its commander-in-chief?
I think a governor is better than a senator. A senator is a legislator. A governor has to run the state that he governs, and I think a governor would make a better president than a legislator.
Does anybody else agree with Randy?
And he's an outsider as well, or she's an outsider as well, which gives you, no preconceived notions when they come to town.
Do a quick show of hands. How many people in the room is it important that the Republican nominee be a conservative? How important is that to everybody? Okay, only about half. And for the others of you for whom it's conservative isn't that important, do you want a nominee who's a moderate, or does it just, could they be either moderate or conservative? Is moderate what you're looking for?
I would like somebody moderate and not too terrifically conservative.
Yeah, I think there's different levels of conservatism. I mean, you've got the far right, which if you elect someone like that, good luck. You're going to have gridlock, and same thing, just an elephant instead of a donkey.
How important is it to you that the candidate that you would get behind sort of represents the future for the Republican Party?
Well, that's the reason we go through this whole process. Otherwise, we could just sit back and complain about it and do nothing. But again, I'm a senior, but I'd like to see this world and this country left in good hands for my family. And yes, it's very important.
Craig, you just said it was important to you after talking a little while ago about Ronald Reagan, who was obviously
I think we need somebody who can cross
president.
over, and she made a point about getting all the Republicans, something that could support everyone instead of just a faction where people get upset. Well, I'm not going to vote for him. We need somebody who can kind of cross over and bring everyone in.
Right.
Well, and I think you have to have a visionary. You have to have somebody that can see into the future and keep us progressing and moving forward. If you don't, we'll just stay stagnant, and I don't think anybody wants that.
So, Mark, that everything that we've seen across the country so far was exemplified in that conversation when it comes to the Republican race. It is a wide open race.
Some like experience, some like a new face. Some like a more conservative candidate, some say it doesn't need to be a conservative. Some want somebody from Washington, some wants an outsider.
Some wants a legislator, some wants executive experience, some want business leaders.
Anybody running, thinking about running, can look at that discussion and find some hope that their profile would work. You don't have somebody like Bob Dole, an old senator. Lindsey Graham would be the one exception, but the leading Senate candidates are younger, so they can argue we might be from Washington, but we're a fresh face.
Well, they did. The one thing that came through is that they want, there's even in this Republican group, is they want a visionary and they want someone who looks like the future. Not necessarily young, but someone who can take the party forward in some way. And you could sort of tell in this group that there was a palpable buzz. I did that session. I sat and talked with them. There was a palpable buzz around Carly Fiorina and a palpable buzz around Marco Rubio. And those two kind of, there's a way in which you can see how it kind of might benefit them, that kind of yearning for something new, something fresh, and something future-oriented.
My instinct in listening to those voices and looking at the polling and talking to folks when we were in Iowa is, while somebody like Fiorina and Rubio now are kind of getting their turn in attention, I don't get the sense it's going to be like last cycle where when someone had their turn on the stage, they rocketed up to the 20s or the 30s into the lead.
Right.
I think people may get a little bit of a bump, but even the people who were expressing enthusiasm or positive things about Fiorina and Rubio and Walker, it wasn't like consensus or a firm certainty, I'm for that person. It was, I'm interested in them now.
Well, right, and last time, you had a very weak field where you had people shoot up and then collapse. In this field, this is a much stronger field, and so you can imagine that it'll be more evened out. The thing that also struck me, the moderate conservative thing, what you did not have in that room, and you're supposed to have, Iowa Republicans are supposed to be super conservative, you didn't have much of that at all. Even the ones who were conservative were not like, it must be a conservative, and there were plenty of moderates in the room, too.
Yep.
All right, we'll be right back with the best food in Iowa, and that's saying something.
Pretty much every time we go to Des Moines, Iowa, we try to stop by two places to eat. One is Smittys for Tenderloin. That's easy because it's out by the airport. And the other is also pretty easy to get to. Chentro, the sizzling restaurant in downtown Des Moines that has more to do with politics than most things, even in the Hawkeye State. We took our man Griffin Hammond with us to capture the essence of why this incredibly popular restaurant has also become incredibly important. Harry Bookie.
Hey Mark, how are you?
Great to see you, man.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I met the legend.
Yeah, there you go.
This place has been open since 2002. What was downtown Des Moines like when this place opened?
Well, there was nothing across the street. There were virtually no restaurants or activities going on downtown.
You wouldn't describe this as a gastronomic paradise when you moved.
No. Yeah. It was a food desert.
So what was it that gave you the idea to suddenly say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to come here and be a pioneer?
Well, the city wanted to tear the building down to build a, quote, Central Park type environment in Des Moines. I had a preservationist friend who felt that this building shouldn't be torn down. It was built in 1912. It's a Masonic temple building.
When did it start to become a political place?
Well, as it turns out, we didn't really know this at the time, but most of the candidates stayed downtown. They stayed at the Marriott or the Fort Des Moines, a few blocks from here. So when they would finish their day, they just started coming here in 2002. I think it was Kerry. John Edwards had his own table. Joe Biden had his own table right in the middle of the banquettes.
How much did Adam Nagurney do to put you on the map?
Well, Adam was the chief political writer for the New York Times, and a lot of people kind of followed his lead, we found out. And he would start a table in the middle of the restaurant, and by the end of the evening, a lot of the press would kind of latch on, and there'd be 5 or 6 tables of press. Well, John Kerry announced his candidacy here.
Was Romney ever here?
Romney was here a lot, yeah. So I think Romney had an event here. They had New Year's Eve parties here for the press.
Yeah, that's right.
That ceiling alone was $80,000 to repair the stained glass windows there. They were all coming out and so forth. Yeah, we spent $9 million on this building to restore it. It's been the singularly most satisfying investment, but the singularly worst investment I've ever made.
Projected date by which you'll make your money back?
Well, the restaurant's doing quite well, so that helps. In the 2002 caucus, or 2006 caucuses, we had all 3 anchors here. We had Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, and Tom Brokaw. We're all in the restaurant at the same time, plus a lot of candidates that night, and Tim Russert.
So we're here right before the lunch rush What's your biggest night in terms of media star power in the history of Centro?
Well, it used to be the night before the caucuses, but now the candidates seem to be politicking all the way up till the end, and even during the day. So, so I think that probably the night before the caucuses is when we're most busy.
So what's it like with the political people coming in, particularly the journalists who've got expense accounts? Does that make a difference in your business, higher checks or no?
I guess, you know, we do a lot of business right now. During the caucus season, sometimes we get people will come and stay a long time just so they can see celebrities. So it helps us and hurts us at the same time a little bit.
As you look back on the years that this place has been open now, 13 years, what are like the nights, the most star-studded nights you can remember, the most ones that stand out in your mind?
Well, we had Sharon Stone called one night and said she had heard about the food and she was wondering, she was getting in late, so could we keep the kitchen open? Well, that was a pretty easy decision for everybody. So we had her, I'd say the night that Scarlett Johansson was here was pretty exciting.
Which night was that?
That was right after the Obama win.
The night of the 2008 caucuses.
The 2008 caucuses.
What stuff? Did political people order different stuff, more stuff?
John Kerry liked the fish. I mean, everybody had their favorites. Ron Paul was a big. He came here a lot.
What did he order?
I don't know what he ordered, but I know that Kerry liked the seafood because we were.
Nothing like good Iowa seafood.
There you go.
So if you were writing a history of Des Moines in the last 15, 20 years, what would you say? What would be the paragraph about this building in Centro? What would it say?
Well, preservation makes a difference. As a result of this, there's a lot of buildings that have been preserved that might have been slated for demolition. There's probably been 15 restaurants that have opened downtown, 5,000 or 6,000 different apartments that are being built or have been built. Whole areas are growing. And we've had a number of those developers came and said that but for this building and this restaurant, they wouldn't have opened here.
Right, last question, where does the name come from?
Well, my wife and I spent a lot of time in Italy, and when you go to downtown Italian locations, it always says Centro, city center in Italy.
So this has become the city center of Des Moines?
We like to think so.
Thank you, Harry.
Hey,
Congratulations on all your success.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Great restaurant, great building, and a great man, Harry Bookey. We'll be right back after this.
We are only on television every so often, occasionally, sporadically, every day. But we are live 24/7 on BloombergPolitics.com.
Remember, we're on thrice a day now at 5 Eastern, at 8, and at 11. Have a great Memorial Day. See you next week. Sayonara.